Hey y'all, welcome back. I'm Shayna Cersei and I'm so excited to paint with you today. Today we're going to be painting a butterfly. You can see here I already have one, a moth done on this right side of the page. But let's go over supplies and materials real quick. Today I'm using a 6x9 watercolor sketchbook. This is a Baohong brand. I am using two brush sizes. I have a size 10 and the size 3, both round brushes. These happen to be Princeton brushes. One is an Aqua Elite and one is a Princeton Select. And then I'll also be using my Core mini palette QOR by Golden. And this mini palette is a powerhouse. I love it. And then this other palette you see here on camera, this is just extra space for mixing colors. All right, so let's get started. You can see that I've already drawn out my butterfly here on this one. And then I already have this moth painted over here, but drawing them out, you don't have to draw a perfectly realistic one. Look at pictures of butterflies. The biggest thing is just being symmetrical on both sides for the most part. Having a long body of some type in the middle, and then two symmetrical shapes, top and bottom. But you can see these are pointed down, these are pointed up and down. So there's lots of different ways you can do it. Have fun with it. And don't worry about the designs and patterns. We're just going to do whatever we want. We don't have to make it look exactly like an already existing butterfly or moth. All right, so let's go and pick out some colors for our butterfly. This one I did in blues and grays and browns. Lots of fun. This one I think I'm going to do in warmer colors, maybe some reds and blacks, or orange and yellow reds and blacks. With this, and especially with watercolor, we are going to build from our lightest layers to our darkest layers. So whatever we want light, so you can see here this blue section, this light blue section, that was all put on first, and then I built all of the designs and darker details on top of that. With the exception of, we have a few white accents in there. Actually, those I just left the white of the paper. These white accents I put on with a Posca pen, or you could do bleed proof white or something like that. All right, so for this little butterfly up here, actually I think I'm going to start with yellow since I have all this yellow out here on my palette. This is Nickel Azo yellow, and I'm just going to add a bunch of water to it. It's quite bright here. And for my first layer, I want it to be a pretty light layer. So I'm just going to fill in this whole thing with a nice wash of bright yellow. And you can see I have pretty dark pencil lines there. I am going to be putting on lots of edgy details, so I'm not worried about them. And then we're going to have to let this dry while we build up other colors. But you know, before it dries, we're going to do a little wet on wet, I think. And now my paper is 100% cotton, 140-pound cold press. So these should stay pretty damp for a little bit. So I have time to get to adding wet on wet. So I'm actually going to infuse a little bit darker color on the edges just by dropping it in here. Again, just have fun with this. The biggest thing is keeping whatever you do symmetrical. Like this doesn't matter as much, dropping in these darker areas, like if one is a little bigger than the other. This is just kind of adding a little form and interest to this layer. But when we start to put patterns and designs on, you want them to be symmetrical. Whatever you put on this side, you have to put on that side, type of thing. So just keep that in mind. All right, let's see what else. So with the yellow, if I do warm colors, let's go with this red. So this is a Pyrrol red, and I'm mixing it with And this is still wet on wet, so I'm just kind of playing with setting up the base here. So I mixed it with the yellow, so we have an orange. And then we will let all of this dry and start to plan out some like true kind of more solid patterns on top. All right, so letting that dry. Now you can use a heat tool or a blow dryer if you can't wait for it to dry. If you can wait for it to dry, just let it dry naturally. While I'm waiting for that, I'm going to go in with some Payne's Gray. I'm actually going to paint the body of this. I'm going to go in with some light Payne's Gray. So I already have some here in my palette. I'm going to do a light layer because then I'm going to add some texture, some details. You can even leave some white if you want. I just want to be careful that I don't let it bleed into this wet area on the side. So I am leaving a little space. And then my little antennae. Getting way up on the tip of my brush. I see I just knocked this with the edge of my finger here. And moved some of that paint outside the outline. When you're doing really delicate things, so I filled up my brush with paint, but I have probably too much. When I touch it to the paper, it would kind of come out a little too fast. So I'm just going to touch it to my paper towel to take out the excess on the tip of it before I go in to do something super delicate. There we go. All right, so let's let all of that dry and then we'll come back in and put on some of our details. All right, we're back and our base is dry. So I think for my details, I'm going to use dark red and Payne's Gray. Let me just, first I'm going to take some very concentrated Payne's Gray to kind of go back into the body. I am going to leave some of the lighter gray as highlights. Again, leaving a little interest. So that's the middle. So let's start with red. Now I am going to take my red. So I have a Pyrrol red here. If you have a cadmium red or some other deep red shade that you like, this Pyrrol red is pretty warm for a red. You could use an alizarin crimson. It's up to you. But I'm going to use this very warm red here. Pretty warm. It's not super warm, but yeah, it's pretty warm. And I'm going to add to it some Payne's Gray. And it does kind of bring it almost to an alizarin crimson kind of color. It cools it down a little bit. Okay, so let's start by adding some details or some shapes or patterns. So I'm going to start by adding this like triangle shape. And just remember, whatever I do on this side, I have to do on the other side. And you could draw out patterns first. You could draw one side, fold it over to make sure it's an exact duplicate. I'm not going to get that crazy. I'm going to do my best. And remember that butterflies are still organic, living creatures, and they might have slight differences between the sides. They might not be perfect. But you could definitely trace this all out or draw it all out on paper and then use that to transfer it to your butterfly pattern. And don't worry, I'm going to be doing some black / Payne's gray layering on top of that. To kind of bring this all together. You could do one whole side first. I'm going to try to do it as I go, like instead of doing the whole pattern, kind of do it as I go. And I am going slower because in my brain I'm having to flip and mirror the shape and really look at it. It can be tricky. It's not necessarily super easy. My brain is working overtime right now, especially on camera, trying not to mess it up. You'll see the mistake before I do for sure if I make one. All right, let's do something on the tip here. And then we'll do it on the other side. And my tips are even slightly different. Ooh, this still has a little wet spot up here in the corner. So you can see it's bleeding rather than having a nice harsh line. So I'm just going to take my dryer there. And now hopefully I might have to change the other one to match this one if this one is a lot wider. Well, that's not too bad. I'm sure I'll look back at it on camera. One great tool or trick can be kind of pausing as you're like working on things like this, taking a picture of it and then looking at the picture. Sometimes in our brains have kind of fixed things a little bit for us as we go. And then when we take a picture of it and kind of step back from it, you see where there might be some need for adjustment or things are not quite lining up how you would want them to. So about right over here for the final piece. You're like, oh, that's off. I do it all the time. Where I paint something and to me, like from the angle I'm painting it and not taking a step back at any point, I then realize like, oh gosh, that's not quite right. That looks awful. Even though it looked great while I was doing it. All right, so I think that's enough with the red. We have quite the pattern going on here, but we're gonna add some Payne's gray / black, whatever you have. I just happen to have Payne's gray in my palette. Oops, I just picked up my brown. Payne's gray is my favorite. All right, so this can be done so many different ways, but I'm going to start by doing some stuff on the edges here. All right, And when you're doing something like this, also just taking a pause or a breather to step back to kind of figure out your next move can be helpful as well. Go a little wider on the outside there. Actually going to do some shapes inside the red. And again, I'm just making this up as I go. Go look at a lot of different pictures of butterflies. Let's see. This is okay. It's feeling a little, this bottom part, not as organic as I was like almost too, I don't know the word, but we're gonna try to address that. I feel like everything is pulling down too much. So let's put some dots like on the edge here. And then I'm going to do some type of horizontal shape. I'm going to leave it yellow in the middle there. It's okay if you don't love it. You can do more of these. You can try this a million times. You can use the same butterfly shape and do tons of different patterns on the same shape. Like just trace the same or the same moth shape. And then just do a bunch of different designs and really stretch your brain to kind of think of new color combinations, new patterns, look at butterflies in real life, look at drawings of butterflies and use that as inspiration for kind of what you want to take from them for your own designs. I love how the yellow is really starting to glow. Because we're putting all these dark colors on top. Right, we're going to do this black in here. And then I'm going to do one more. I'm going to do like a black circle up here. I'm trying to decide if we'll kind of outline the top edge of this as well, but let me take a step back and look. My one circle is definitely bigger than my other. All right, let's make this a little bigger, and it's going to make the border itself a little thicker. And then we'll try to match this one by filling in a little more on the interior. There, they're a little more balanced that way. And now I kind of want to do like a ruffly shape right here. That, and then I'll outline this. And then I'm going to be done. I'm going to do this on the other side. And I've used my size 3 brush for all of these details. And again, it's unlikely that you'll see a butterfly out in nature with this pattern, but not impossible. I mean, maybe impossible, but I'm not an entomologist. I don't know. I have seen crazier looking insects for sure, with crazier vibrant colors. And I'm always astounded by like how nature pulls some of this stuff off. You're like, there's no way that's real. And then it's like, nope, that is real. There we go. There is our fun-loving, super warm, super bright. I love that the yellow is really glowing. So we put down that light yellow base, but then as we built up layers of darker colors, it becomes brighter and brighter to the eye because of the juxtaposition of basically building in contrast. Let's see, I am feeling like I have a Posca pen here. I really need to order some more bleed proof white, but I'm feeling like I want to put 1 or 2 white accents on here. So is this black dry? So I have this little tiny Posca pen, and I also have this larger one. Now you don't need to do this step, but I think like a little pop of white, like right here. And the Posca is gonna be, it's gonna dry a little gray. You would have to do a couple of coats on it. But I think that really just adds another fun element. Let's not go crazy, but I'm gonna put a couple up here. 3 little dots in the corner. 1, 2, 3. Okay, put the Posca away, Shayna. All right, y'all, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for joining me for another page in our watercolor journals. Now go out and paint some butterflies and some moths. I really enjoyed both of the ones I've painted in here. They're very different shapes, different color palettes. Everything is kind of different about them. And I love them both equally. So much fun. So don't forget to check out the description for links to supplies and materials. Go ahead and like this video. That would be great. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. I would really appreciate it. Leave a comment if you have a question or just a comment. And also save this for later if you haven't, or if you don't have a chance to kind of paint along right now or share with a friend. All right, y'all, take care, happy painting, and I'll see you for our next watercolor journal page very soon.